Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag. From the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, John, we have a packed studio this week. We got Warren Cunningham in here with us right now. We're going to have Staff Sergeant Anthony Holt coming in here to join us. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot to talk about. The main thing that we have coming up this week is going to be the military appreciation football game that you guys are having. You guys are hosting Central Hardin, and that's also the first district game for the Trojans, Warren. And kind of, you know, I didn't really have any part of it. Brian Webb actually had a big part of it, my co-host on the U.S. Army ESPN game night that we have each Friday, and that's where we're going to be this Friday is at your school. The guy who handles the PR stuff or the relations stuff for the Kentucky and Tennessee recruiters, Army recruiters, he contacted Brian back in the summer and was like, hey, we have an opportunity to get these people who will come jump out of some planes at a school, and do you know any schools? And at the time, the football schedules weren't totally fixed, and we were like, oh my gosh, nobody's playing that Friday. This is a Friday of fall break. Turns out you guys are playing. And so it's all kind of wrapped together. So tell us a little bit about, on the Barren County side, what you guys are doing.
Well, you know, you kind of mentioned some of it there. Some folks reached out to us and asked if we would be interested in hosting that, and of course, it's a great opportunity. Yeah. And we jumped at the opportunity to do that. I think they're doing this jump at the Western Army game the next day on Saturday. This coming Saturday, and they were wanting to do it on Friday night as well. And probably, to be honest, there's probably not a lot of other games, but also we have a great place to do that. So we've touched base with them and had some meetings and communication with them, and so it's the U.S. Army Daggers parachute team. Mm-hmm. They're going to land on the field approximately 6:45, maybe be there a little bit earlier than that. So we just thought it would be a great opportunity for us to kind of tie Military Appreciation Night into that. You guys are going to be there with the U.S. Army ESPN radio pregame show. So we just thought it was, worked out. Everything would be great to work together and to do that. So we're really excited about hosting that Friday night prior to the football game. And then, as you mentioned, our first district game, we're coming off a really good win against Greenwood. Yeah. It's been a little over a week ago now, week and a half ago. So we had the bye week last week. So we got a lot of momentum going there, and so hopefully we can have a great night Friday night.
Yeah, I think it's kind of neat the way this all kind of pans out, because, like I said, at first we were like, we don't know how we're going to pull this off, and then it just worked out. And sometimes that's the way it's meant to be, I suppose. It just works out.
There are some advantages to playing over fall break.
Yeah, you found the one.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
And hopefully also, though, even though it's going to be fall break, I imagine this is the kind of thing that might attract a larger group of people to the game who have nothing else to do on that Friday night. Either they didn't go on fall break, maybe they're come back a little bit early or whatever. I mean, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think so. And like I said, it's going to be Military Appreciation Night. All veterans get in free to the game. Yeah. So it's a nice way to kind of give back a little bit to our community and the veterans in our community. So hopefully we have a large number of those folks that come out to not only to see the event, but also to watch the game.
Now, tell us real quick a little bit about ticket sales related to it and that kind of thing, because I know you can unlike the bowl games where there's have pre-prep stuff that has to go on, it goes on with this too, and I imagine you guys might be trying to go ahead and just get some tickets out there to have an idea of turnout. Are you doing that?
We're not. We're just selling them at the gate. Yeah. $5 admission, school-age children and up, just like a normal regular season game. Okay.
John, what do you think about this?
Well, a couple things. Number one, tied to Western and Army. Mm-hmm. The next day, I think, kind of neat. Army's got a heck of a football program too, by the way. Right. I think that's neat, and the military has played a big presence at our high school. We have since I've been here 25 years, a long history of a lot of our kids have gone into various branches of the military. Yeah. And we have a very strong junior ROTC program as well with Scott Walker. And so, I'm not saying we're the perfect fit, but I'm saying it matches up a lot of ways, Military Appreciation Night, with what happens at our school, not just this year, but for the past few years.
Yeah. Now, Warren, did they try to convince you to jump out of the plane with them?
No, I was given an opportunity to do that. Not at this, not at the game, because we discussed that.
Yeah.
But this is not. I can't remember what they call it, but this is not a jump where somebody else is going to jump.
Tandem jump.
Yeah, my night would probably be over right then if that happened. So somebody else would have to take my athletic director responsibility duties from that
point
forever.
On.
Maybe forever. Yeah, that's so just to be honest, I really didn't jump at that chance. I mean, it's neat and maybe something I would do at some point, but not right now.
Yeah, Brian Webb went and did the tandem jump thing with the Golden Knights, I think it was, down in Clarksville. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, do you want to do it? And I was like, nah, man. I would have gone out for the airborne when I was in the Army if I wanted to jump out of a perfectly good plane. I mean, I'm not sure I'd have made it, but that would have been my thing. I'm not doing it in my civilian life for certain. And to be honest with you, and he's talked about this a little bit on his show, it kind of took a toll on him after he did it. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to get up there, and then somebody slides open the door, and you look out, and you're like, my goodness, that's a long way down. I hope I don't die on the way.
Yeah, I'm not saying I would never do it, but doing it, right then in front of everybody that knows. I mean, that's not. I don't think that was really the spot I wanted to do it in.
Yeah,
I'm saying I'll never do it. Maybe when I'm in the 80s.
When you got nothing to lose.
Well, that's how I look at it. That's right.
But you got some life ahead of you at the moment.
I can't do it. I mean, it takes too much courage, and I don't have that.
Well, I mean, you guys have been in stressful situations, coaching in championship games.
Yeah, that's the same.
Our feet are on the floor, though. I mean, our feet,
let's relate that to a basketball game to jumping out of a plane. It's not. Remember that next time you get to a stressful game, Warren. That'll calm you down.
It's a different level of stress.
Just think, Warren, once you've jumped out of the plane, everything else is gravy, right?
Maybe my stress level would go down during the games if I jumped out of the plane.
Yeah. So, more serious note, I guess. Just talk real quick. Let's talk about the football game itself coming up. You mentioned the big win 2 weeks ago, by the time this game is played, that Barren had over Greenwood. They were down 16-6, came back and won 19-16. Tyler Bush and Jamison Bowie both made just huge plays in the second half to win that game for Barren. And I think that was kind of a program-defining win, because that's the kind of game Greenwood's been a bugaboo for Barren for years. It's the kind of game that they would go into a number of times, and people would say, Barren, this is one Barren should win, and Greenwood would come out on top.
I think it's a game over several years. It's been a game that's been fairly evenly matched.
Yeah.
And it seems like we've lost a lot of them the way that we won the game the other night.
Right.
Whether or not we had a lead or not, but you feel like, man, we got a good chance to win here, and something just doesn't go our way. Mm-hmm. But the other night we made big plays, and I think it helps get you over the hump a little bit. From being whether it's 3-7, 4-6, now you have a chance to be on the other side of those. To have a winning record. And I think it helps you against teams like Friday night. It gives you some confidence. I know from a basketball perspective, when you win some games early, and especially when you win some games of teams that you feel like you're fairly evenly matched with, it makes those games, when you play teams that, hey, these guys may be a little bit better than us, it makes those better games. Mm-hmm. You play better in those games. So we're hoping. We got two tough games coming up with Central Hardin and North Hardin, two top 5 teams in the state in 6A, and 2 district games, home games. So we're hoping that the momentum that we've got and the confidence that our guys have from a good start here at being 5-1 helps us in these district games the next 2 weeks.
I've heard you and John both say this through the years. I mean, when you took over the boys program, you had to rebuild the program. I mean, everybody had graduated, and Steve Riley left you a fantastic roster coming back that you had to work with. But I remember you saying one of the things that you knew when the program's headed in the right direction is when you either win a game you're not supposed to, or you overcome a situation and win a game when it looked like you were down and out.
Very much so, and that was the fourth year, I guess it was, for us early in the season. Mm-hmm. We had won some games. We're hosting a Christmas tournament, and we had beaten Madison Southern in the semifinals of our tournament, and they were good, not great. They were a good team, solid team, and I felt like that helped us a little bit. And then the next day we played John Hardin in the finals and played great and beat them. Probably it was not a game we probably should have won, but just being in that locker room after the game and seeing the look on our guys' face and seeing their reaction, it completely changed our fortunes for the rest of that season, and also got things going in the right direction for us. Yeah. And so I can, I think our football game the other night, I think those are those type of moments, hopefully, for our guys to experience some success against a quality team and a team that we haven't had much success against over the years. Yeah, and you mentioned Central Hardin. I think they're rated 4th in 6A or 5th in 6A right now, but they're like one of the leading scoring teams. You look at their scores, it looks like defense is optional for them. They just like to put up the points. The next week will be North Hardin. They're the reverse of that. They shut people down from what I can tell, and they're like one place ahead of Central Hardin. And those are two tough district games. I mean, moving up into that 6A classification, you guys got a couple of teams that are pretty good right now, even if they are, a lot of times people don't look at them and say, hey, those are traditional powers like they do, say, South Warren and Bowling Green. Right, and, regardless of what district you're going to be in, if you're in 5A, 6A, you're going to play good folks. Yeah. You can either play Bowling Green, South Warren, or like us with North Hardin and Central Hardin. So you hope maybe that just seeing somebody new, seeing somebody different from the folks that we've seen in the past, maybe will help our guys a little bit too. And they won't be as familiar with us as they will, some of the teams that they've been playing. So hopefully works in our favor a little bit. Yeah. Now let's talk about a couple of other sports real quick before we let you go. Tomorrow, Bree Russell tees off at the girls' state golf tournament. I think it's 12:15. 12:15. Yes, she does. Is she on hole 1? I think. I think she is. I can't remember for certain. Okay. But she's teeing off 12:15 girls' state tournament. So she had at the Bowling Green Country Club. Bowling Green Country Club close by. So she's had a fantastic year. Our girls' golf team had a really good year. Yep. We were consistently behind South Warren and Glasgow in our region, and they were two of the. I think they were both in the top 10 at the end of the team season rankings there. Yes, and so Dwayne Withrow does a great job with our girls, and we wish Bree the best of luck tomorrow, and hopefully she'll be playing tomorrow and Wednesday both. Yep, and then over the weekend, you and I got to watch some soccer, quite a bit of it on Sunday in the searing heat, and on Saturday in the searing heat, and Sunday was nice. Yeah, it was. We were just dodging thunderstorms on yesterday. So yeah, and so the Trojanettes pulled out the district win in double overtime. Big free kick shot there by Emma Hughes to win the game. Glasgow had won the 2 regular season games. Probably a caveat a little bit in that is that Allie Bell got hurt in the first game that Glasgow won 2-0, and then she didn't play in the second game that Glasgow won 2-1. And that game yesterday, I thought, and John and I are going to talk a little bit more about this later, but one of the things I thought was Glasgow did a good job of taking Allie out, and Barren did a good job of taking Aubrey Phillips out from scoring, and so somebody else had to step up for both teams, and it worked out for Emma Hughes that she was the one. I think she got all 3 goals for Barren. She really took advantage of the opportunities that she had. Yeah, and then Dina Miranda scored the 2 goals for Glasgow. So, it was to me, I know fans are always like, oh, somebody's doing this and somebody's doing that. For me, it was a great game to watch. I thought it was too, and sometimes those are easy to say when your team wins. Yeah. But I just thought from the beginning to the end, especially the last 10-15 minutes of the game, and then plus the overtime, that was it seemed like there was a lot of folks there, and it was really intense. But I just thought it was a great soccer game, and our girls, credit to Coach Nyken and our girls, they really hung in there and played well, made some big plays, and won another district championship. So it's really, really great for them. Yeah, and then meanwhile on the flip side, Glasgow just has Barron's number right now. I'd say that's the bottom line. Yeah, they do, and they've got a really good team. Yeah. I think that has has a lot to do with it. Coach Mahung does a great job with their boys, and I think they won their 6th title yesterday. Our girls won their 4th in a row, so they've got a really good program, got a lot of really good players, and Coach Mercer, I think we're headed in the right direction. We've got more wins than we've had in a long, long time this year, and they've had a great season. Of course, Aiden is really high, maybe the state scoring leader. I think he is the state leader. But our guys the game was, for the most part, was closer than the final score. I think it was 3-1 till close to the end, but really battled and hung in there and kind of got away from us at the end. But both those teams will be in action next Monday or Tuesday in the regional soccer tournaments.
Yeah, and those will be an interesting. The draw is always kind of interesting. You're going to wind up with somebody you probably don't want to play, no matter what.
Either Monday or Tuesday. Sooner or later, you are.
Yeah, and that's for both the boys and the girls.
It's an odd tournament to explain, because people ask, because there's only 3 districts, so there's only 6 teams. So it's different than baseball and basketball in terms of the regional draw and who you play and when you might play them. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, good luck to them. And like I said, John and I are going to talk a little bit more about the soccer. And then volleyball's off this week. They get another week before they start their district tournament on the 21st. So I don't think anybody's playing this week. Everybody actually went on fall break for volleyball.
Yeah.
And basketball starts next week.
That's right. Yeah. I was talking to some people about that. They're going to October 15th, 17th, whatever.
Next Tuesday.
Yep. So it's almost the winter season, even though we just now got to fall.
Yes, just in the last day or two, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, this is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, I want to thank Warren Cunningham for stopping by and talking to us about what's coming up Friday at Barren County High School. The Golden Daggers, I think, is what they are called.
The Black Daggers.
Black Daggers. I'll mix them up from now until Friday, probably.
No, that's all right. I didn't honestly know exactly what it was, because I'd only heard of the Golden Knights, and then somebody told me the Black Daggers, and then I heard Black Knights, and I'm like, okay, so the Black Knights are the Army's football team.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, this is Staff Sergeant Anthony Holt. Anybody who listens to our Friday night pregame show will have heard his voice the last few weeks. He's been joining us, except for when he skipped out on us and went to Louder Than Life. But he's here to tell us about the Black Daggers and some of the things to expect Friday night for the Barren County Central Hardin game, the pregame stuff. People will be parachuting into the stadium, weather permitting. I mean, we're hoping the weather is fantastic. It has been to this point, to pull this kind of stuff off. So anyway, Sergeant Holt, tell us a little bit about what we can expect as far as you understand.
Well, as far as I understand, the Black Daggers, and I just, like I said on Friday night's show, I was like, I heard one thing, I don't know, but it is the United States Army Special Operations Command. It's their jump team.
Okay.
So it's a version, kind of like the Golden Knights, but it's a different side of the Army.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are going to come and jump for the Barren County game on Friday and also the Army WKU game on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's their, I wouldn't call them their recreational jump team, but, they're the ones that are trained to jump at high altitude as opposed to regular paratroopers who jump at 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be pretty cool. They're going to deliver the game ball and, as long as the weather permitting. I told you the other night, if the weather doesn't pan out, I'll be there in my whole dress uniform. So I'm bringing it with just in case. So
the weather would be high wind, storms. That would be the issue.
Yeah, anything that's going to put anybody at risk. I mean, the Army is very risk adverse. If there is a certain
which is somewhat ironic, don't you think? Anyway, go ahead.
If there's any way to prevent any kind of unnecessary injury or casualties or anything like that, the Army has come up with a plan to mitigate those risks. And it's the same way with the jump team. You're jumping out of an airplane at 20,000 feet.
Uh-huh.
You gotta kind of take into account some of the elements. So yeah, but so like I said, weather pending. I mean, it's going to take a lot to really get it canceled, but
yeah, isn't that interesting? 20,000 feet, you're going to land within 100 yards or thereabouts.
Yeah, no, I can't fathom. It's where are they stationed out of?
The USASOC's jump team, the Black Daggers, are stationed out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
that's where the home of the 82nd Airborne there.
The home of the 82nd Airborne, and for all those high-speed people that want to do Army Special Forces, their assessment and selection program is there, and also part of the qualification course. And it's not actually Fort Bragg; it's Camp McCall. It's just a point, like a part of Fort Bragg. So
yeah.
And that's part of what's going on too. It's military appreciation, but also who knows how many people who may see this for the first time may be interested in this, and that may be the one moment that everybody has to have one that sparks
some interest.
That's exactly right.
Well, and to that end, I mean, Sergeant Holt, we're talking to you about people jumping out of planes and whatnot, but I mean, really, you are a person who goes out and tries to convince people that the Army is a life for them.
Well,
as a
kind of, yeah. I mean, that's supposed to be what our MO is, but I've kind of taken a different approach, because the Army in itself is not for everybody.
No, that's right.
I wouldn't be morally right if I would try to convince somebody that I could tell that the Army's not for them. It would be more like immoral for me to try to convince that person to join.
Yeah.
And I don't treat anybody like they're a number or a contract or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Most of the time I try to build a relationship with the person, and if the Army's not for them, I'll try to help them develop a plan that is for them, whether it is a way to get money for college outside of the Army or whatever, because that's what one of our duties also is. We're trained career counselors, but there's a lot of people that are more worried about how they look, about how many numbers they put in the Army or whatever. Not saying that they don't do their due diligence and really inform the kids, but it's just the approach that I've taken because of what the Army's done for me. The Army took me out of a place that I probably shouldn't have been in and made me into the person that I am today. So I just try to give kids a different perspective on life and how the Army has helped me. So
yeah. What do you think is the most successful recruitment you've had in terms of like people that you have seen join the Army, or even if they didn't, but you guided them some way, and later you're like, okay, that went well?
Well, my very first enlistment, actually, and this guy was, and he was a walk-in to the office, so I didn't go out and look for him or anything like that. But he came in with a plan in his mind, what he was going to do. He was a college graduate, scored a 99 on the ASVAB, had the highest GT score I had ever seen ever. And sometimes, most of those people that are like that, sometimes they're socially awkward. Some they're really, really smart, and they know about a lot of things but don't know how to socially interact. He was not that way. He was very physically fit, and he said he wanted to be in the 75th Ranger Regiment, which is I call it the entry-level special operations, but it's because you can join at 18 instead of like special forces. You have to wait till 21.
Right.
And they do mostly like ground warfare and stuff like that. Well, that's what his plan was. He wanted to do that job, and that was the only thing that he wanted to do. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, they go through an assessment and selection process. Also, it's called the Ranger Assessment and Selection Process, or RASP. And he's the first person that I've seen made it from start to finish all the way to get his tan beret. So, I mean, that. I didn't really change his life, but because he was already on the path, he already knew what he was going to do, and there wasn't going to be anybody that stood in his way. But that was, to me, like one of the coolest things ever, because that's the first time I gotten to see somebody, finish the pipeline. Yeah. So,
did you, when he walked in though with those scores, did you say, "Hey, you don't have to just be a grunt"?
Well, that's what I had tried to tell him. We have, because what his job was is 11. He went to Fort Benning to be 11 X-ray, and he got the option 40, which is the Ranger option. Mm-hmm. Well, 11 series is infantry. Okay, so I'm an infantryman. I'm just not in the 75th Ranger Regiment.
Right.
So it's one of the easier jobs to get in the Army. And I told him with your scores, why wouldn't you try out for at least special forces? The special forces needs, brilliant young minds like you, and you're physically fit, very resilient minded, you're what they're looking for. And he's like, nope, this is what I want to do. I'm set. You're not going to change my mind. And I'm like, okay, well, at least consider it at a later time further into your career. So, but he's loving it. He's down stationed in Savannah, Georgia at Hunter Army Airfield. And I mean,
not a bad location.
I don't know if you've ever been to Savannah or not, but it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. A very historic town too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not a bad location. Maybe that's what the deal was. He wanted to be in Savannah.
Well, I mean, the thing about the Ranger Regiment though is it limits your options to PCS.
Yeah,
you can't really move to too many places. Either Fort Lewis, Washington, Fort Benning, Georgia, or Hunter Army Airfield. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, U.S. Army Special Forces. I mean, they have a few different locations, North Carolina, Colorado, Fort Campbell, even up in Lewis, so they got a wider range of place to be stationed. So.
Yeah. John, did you ever consider joining the Army? I mean, you've got quite a backlog of things that could be behind your name, such as, attorney, coach, teacher, whichever one, former college baseball player, I mean, all those things. Did you ever consider joining the military?
Briefly, my grandfather was in the Army, World War II. He actually served with Patton over in France.
Yeah.
And made it out. And I was always, he didn't talk much about it, but until the very end. And he had a reunion every year with all the guys that he was in with. And I never saw him cry until that.
Is that right?
Yes, and that was that's the greatest generation, right? The World War II generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had tremendous amount of respect, and I don't know if I have regret not doing it, but I have. I just know how much it has helped people. I've had friends that went into it that the discipline that everybody needs.
Yeah,
the military can offer you, and there's just so many more options right now too. And they'll pay for your education. There's just so many good things that can come out of it.
Yeah, I mean that's why I went in, was to try to get the money for college. That was the only way I was going to be able to afford to go to college. And so, but of course at that time they gave you the three combat arms options: artillery, infantry, or tanks. And I like the idea of driving around in a big 63-ton tank that would do like 48 miles per hour. That seemed pretty awesome. And so that's what I did. And then after I got there, I didn't do that, but for like 3 months. and then they sent me to the battalion headquarters in S3. But
well, one of the things about it is like right now in this day and age, the Army is smaller than it has ever been at any point in history. And one of the things that breeds a problem for recruiting is there's not as much family tradition as there once was. You know, not too many people's grandfathers had served or fathers have served, so there's no need to follow in somebody's footsteps. And that used to be one of the greatest I guess recruiting tools that there ever was. Is somebody had a family member that had joined, and so that kind of drains the pool a little bit. And then also the amount of qualified applicants out there, whether it be physically or that can pass the exam to get in, the ASVAB. Right now we have the smallest amount of qualified people to choose from, and which is at about 29% of America's population from the ages of 17 to 25. And out of those 29%, there's only 1% that really has any interest in serving at all anyways. Yeah. So that's why when they say less than 1% of the United States has ever served, that's what they're talking about.
Well, you got to be smart now. I mean, so much more technology now in the military on what to do, with for you name it, but you have to be able to use the computer and think and things like that. And it's I tell our kids, you have to, it's not just going to college that you have to be smart and all that. It's for the military as well.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things about that too, also, is right now, I mean, believe it or not, is it is harder to join the Army than it is to go to college. Not necessarily like an Ivy League school or anything like that, but just to go to like a community college. Because you can go to a community college and then later on transfer to a 4-year school. But in the Army, I mean, you got to pass a background check, you got to pass a drug test, you got to pass the ASVAB, you got to be physically qualified. You don't have to do any of those things to go to a traditional college.
Yeah.
The only thing that you have to do to go to like an Ivy League school or a state school or anything like that is score well enough on the ACT or the SAT and then be accepted to that school.
Yeah, it is a challenge, I would imagine, for all branches of the military at the moment because of the changes. People think of being in the military, especially like I mentioned, the combat arms and that kind of stuff, as being, you just got to be a lughead, just a warm body, good enough just to get in the door. But even in those 3 areas that were traditionally where the lugheads hung out, there's a lot of technology associated with it.
Well, and also too, one reason is people are afraid of the danger, especially since we've been a nation at war for the last almost 20 years.
Yeah.
That kind of brews a little bit of concern for some people. But if you go and look at any top 10 lists across any journalist, like I looked in, I don't know if I can list any publications or anything like that, but USA Today, I've looked at Time magazine, and I looked at the left, I looked at the right, and their publications, and they all have top 10 or top 25 lists of jobs with the highest fatality rate, and the United States Army isn't even in the top 25.
Yeah.
The Armed Forces isn't even in the top 25. The top 10 generally consists of, number one, it's mostly is like a logger,
Right.
Which there's some of that going on around here. Linemen is on that list. Maintenance workers are on that list. Electricians are on that list. Construction workers. A lot of the jobs that I talk to these kids and ask them, law enforcement, that what they're going to do after school involves all these jobs. So when they bring up danger as an aspect, I'm like, well, look at this.
Yeah.
And then look at this.
Well, we have to take a quick break here in a minute, but to your point on all this, of the percentage of people who are in the active military, it's a very small percentage who are actually in combat zones.
Well, yeah.
Out of the total number.
Very, very small.
Which people don't really realize. I mean, it's a vast majority of military services support in some way for the mission, as opposed to being on the tip of the spear of the mission.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, this is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, since we last met, we've had a regional boys golf tournament that was like 97 degrees over at Hidden Hills, and then we've had the district soccer tournament played Saturday and Sunday over at Tompkinsville. It's been very popular in Tompkinsville. Lots of people have been burning up their road over there this past week. So real quick on the boys golf side, we didn't have anybody from Glasgow or Barren to qualify for the state tournament. It'll be played at the end of this week, also at the Bowling Green Country Club, like the girls' golf tournament. Trevor Eisenberg, though, from Monroe County, won that boys regional on his home course.
That's
shot
great.
67. Yeah, had a great day. I knew he was a pretty good golfer. I didn't know he was going to beat out Collier and those guys from over in Bowling Green area, because those guys have been
a little home course knowledge. Probably
and I'm telling you this too. Home course knowledge and the heat is just unusual. It was because of the dryness of the heat.
Right. They're going to get a break this week in the state tournament.
Yeah. So there's that. Congratulations to Trevor on that win. I hope he does well at the state.
We've got tomorrow at the state tournament, the one Barren County girl, and 2 from Glasgow.
Yep. Allie McCoy, I think, tees off at 8:30 on hole 10, and then Abby Lee, I think, is at 8:58 on hole 1. As we talked about, Bree Russell's at 12:15 on hole 1.
Best of luck to them.
Yeah.
I think Abby Lee has a shot in being a top 10.
Yes,
she plays well.
She's, I think, maybe in the final season rankings, she was number 10. But she's going to be right there. I mean, I would say that Faith Martin from South Warren will have a chance to win it. She's had a great year, and there's a couple, one from Marshall County, I think, one from Madison Central, and a couple of others. Individuals who are all outstanding golfers. So should be pretty good. It'll be round 1 over there tomorrow, and then those who make the cut get to play Wednesday in round 2. And then over the weekend we saw the district soccer tournament, and we've already talked about that a little bit with Warren. I was going to tell you the thing out of the girls' game that is fascinating to me. The first meeting of the season between Glasgow and Barren County on the girls' side, Glasgow won 2-0, and I thought the difference really was Glasgow was physical. We talked about this after the game was played. Goalie Paige Bird was aggressive and that kind of thing, and I actually think maybe Barren County learned from that game as the season went along, because they were undefeated before that game. And one of the things that they learned was soccer is not a passive sport. I mean, maybe some of them knew that already, but, maybe it shocked them at that time.
Yeah, and I also think, too, by the end of the year, too, their schedule got better.
Yes.
Barron's. I mean, they finished the year with Glasgow, Warren East, and they added South Warren, which is, I thought, real sharp by Coach Niken.
Yeah.
Did not win all those games.
No.
In fact, went 1-3 the last 4.
Yeah.
But I think it better prepared them for the tournament. And, they've won 4 straight, so maybe there's some confidence right there. And even though Glasgow had beaten them twice during the regular season, they were both very close and competitive. And it happened last year, too. But this time, and either team could have won and went in double overtime.
Mm-hmm.
But Emma Hughes, real happy. She's a really good girl. Very proud of her. She had all 3 goals, and it's a game that could go on either way. And but give Coach Niken his first year back as coach. His first time he's been with the girls. He was a heck of a soccer player himself, and coached the boys there for a long time.
Yeah,
he did a good job. Clearly, did a good job. Now it remains to see how. It's a whole different animal when you get to the region, because Greenwood and Bowling Green have just had a stranglehold on the region for ever since soccer started.
Yeah.
And Greenwood's one of the top 5 teams in the state.
Yeah.
And so how it's structured, if Barren and Glasgow, it just depends on who you draw, but you're going to have to go through one of the Bowling Green schools in the semifinals, and that has not worked out throughout the years.
No, another thing about both those teams is that some of the better players for both those teams are young. I mean, actually, I think Barren has one senior who really plays a bit. Glasgow has more than that, but not much more than that.
Right.
They're better players. They're younger players, too. So, I mean, I look – for me as a fan, just watching the game, I don't have a dog in the fight. I enjoyed the game a lot.
Yep.
I feel I'm happy for the winners, and I'm sad for the losers in those situations, because both teams just left it all on the field, which is all you really want.
Yeah, and it's tough when you lose to your rival too.
Oh yeah.
But that's just, somebody has to win, and Barren was double overtime winner. It'd be nice to see how both teams, if they could be competitive against Bowling Green or Greenwood, assuming I have no doubt Greenwood's going to be there. I assume Bowling Green will be there.
Yeah, I think Bowling Green and South Warren are actually maybe close this year.
Yeah.
Greenwood's by far the best team in the region.
Got probably the best player in the state, too.
Yeah, and Haddock.
That's correct. So it'd be nice if we could go down there and be competitive.
Yeah.
And we have not been competitive in the past. But with Barron's youth, and Glasgow's young too, but Barren in particular is very, very young. They've got a really good future.
Yep. Meanwhile, on the boys' side, the bottom line is this. Aiden Niken's the best scorer, probably the best overall soccer player on the field.
Yeah, and not many 6'4" soccer players that are not goalies. He's a gifted player.
Yeah, he is. And for those who think it's just speed or power, I mean, he's got finesse.
No, he's talented. Yeah,
he's got all kinds of moves that he can off of his shots that he puts together. But Glasgow has the better overall team, especially in the midfield at this point.
Very disciplined.
Yep. And kind of what happened in the first half, I think, is the second meeting of the two teams. Glasgow scored 2 goals in the first 4 minutes and just ran away with the game. They won it 8-1. It was never really a competitive game and score wise. But what happened maybe on Sunday was Barren played. I thought they played harder certainly than they did the second meeting of the season. And Aiden played more all over the field. He still got his opportunities. But Glasgow still had a lot more shots in the first half than Barren. The game was tied 1-1, and Barren had really only had 2 good shots at a goal. They'd had a couple of corners that they weren't able to pull off either. But in the second half, Glasgow just kind of took control of the game, moving the ball around the midfield, starting to set up some things, getting the ball where they wanted it, and got the shots they wanted. And fatigue had to be a factor again after all, because I think Barren had 4 subs, and the way Glasgow plays just makes you run to try to defend them.
Right.
And I think that was the end. That's why the final score 6-1. Like Warren said, it was probably really a 3-1 game. But once that kind of snowballs, it just does that. But they both also face the same problem next week at the region. They're going to get Bowling Green, South Warren, Warren Central, even Greenwood, I think, is right up there. I'd say Warren Central's number 1 team still again this year, but those teams are just way out in front at the moment.
Yeah, they just have, a lot of it has to do with the club soccer. I mean, those guys are, year-round soccer players and so forth. But I will say Glasgow has competed the past so many years much closer to those teams than the girls have.
Right.
And in fact, I think they lost 1-0 earlier this year.
Yeah.
So, but it's still it's a tall task for Glasgow or Barren to knock off any of the Bowling Green schools in soccer. It's a real tall task.
Yeah, Glasgow lost to Greenwood 2-1, but last week Warren Central beat them 7-1. Okay. So we'll see how it pans out.
Wish them the best.
Yeah. Well, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, we got about 7 minutes to make a whirlwind tour of what's left of the sports world. And I guess we're going to start out with some college football. We'll start out with Western. After the Central Arkansas loss, we weren't alone in questioning the defense.
I didn't know. I said at the time I didn't think they could get 500 because you have to think beating Central Arkansas was.
It's got to be part of one of the wins, right?
Yeah. Now they're 3-0 in the conference.
Yeah, and the defense has played great.
Tremendous.
They played great against Old Dominion. The final score is 20-3. I mean, look, the offense still is not necessarily anything to write home about, no matter who the quarterback is. I mean, the bottom line is they just don't have the offensive talent that we got used to seeing when
whether it's the quarterback or receivers or the line or whatever.
It's just not the talent we got used to seeing.
That's correct.
But the defense has got talent and is actually playing like we kind of thought they might since Helton retained the whole staff.
Yeah, and I think they've got I think they bought into Coach Helton too.
Yeah.
It seems like he has a plan, and he is I'm sure it's frustrating to him not to put up 50 points a game.
Oh, yeah.
But you can only do what you can only do, and I think he's adjusted to his personnel. And when your defense is that good, you won't take as many chances offensively because you don't want to. You don't want to put your defense in terrible positions. So I think that's part of the reason why the scores are so low. Is I think he's probably a little bit more conservative than he wanted to be. But the name of the game is to get wins.
Well, and to me that's a flashback to the discussion we had after the Central Arkansas loss. Is that I felt like the reason the defense ends up giving up so many points is the offense didn't do them any favors. And, yeah, you still should beat Central Arkansas, but if you give anybody too many chances, they might be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And Central Arkansas, heck, they got a receiver who may actually be a D1 receiver despite where he's playing.
Well, they should have there's no excuse not to have a big crowd Saturday.
Right.
Army is a.
Yep.
If anything, you want to come out and support the Toppers, but Army deserves people's respect too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they lost to Michigan in overtime this year.
By the way, is their quarterback not a Bowling Green kid? Army's?
You're asking me right now on the spot. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I know that Anthony Atkins, the LaRue County kid, is playing at Army.
Okay, all right.
I thought they also had another kid who had played quarterback for him. He may have already graduated.
I think he did, but I don't know. But Army's, what a program.
Yeah, they do have.
Don't expect to see a lot of passing from Army.
No, expect to see a whole lot of option, I think.
That's correct.
And probably a whole bunch of guys running downhill at you.
They stay on the ground like Army should, right?
That's right. Meanwhile, Louisville had a good win. They beat Boston College 41-39.
Put up over 670 total yards of offense
with
two quarterbacks.
Right. And that's, if there was a game last year, we knew last year that Louisville was in trouble. But I think the game that said they're done was that Boston College loss.
Yeah, they quit playing last year. It was, people say that sometimes. I've never seen a team literally just quit playing like they played last year. And this coach has done an incredible job.
Yeah, Scott Satterfield there.
Oh, he's done an incredible job because in Saturday's game, I said they played two quarterbacks. They played not the starting one from the beginning of the year. They played their number 2 and then their number 3.
Yeah.
In fact, their number 3, who's a true freshman, was the one that brought them back in the last quarter for their game-winning field goal. Mm-hmm. And he just, I was so depressed when they didn't get Coach Brown, who I wanted more than anything because I just love how he coaches. But it's kind of amazing. He's 1-4 maybe at
he
Purdue.
May be wishing
1-5. That's correct. And Satterfield has just done an incredible job at Louisville.
I will say this: despite how it would appear, I would say that Louisville is a better job than Purdue.
It is a better job.
I know Purdue's in the Big Ten and all that, and there's a lot of history surrounding the idea of being in the Big Ten.
Right.
But the ACC maybe is a better conference top to bottom than the Big Ten.
Better exposure now.
Yeah, and getting the exposure, and Brom may have passed up his opportunity to make the right move. But
it's amazing what discipline and culture can do to a football program.
Oh, yeah.
And Louisville is a perfect sign of that.
Yep.
A team that just laid down last year, won one game, was blown out everywhere, and basically the same players back.
Yeah, this is, if you ever want to see a testament to what you just said, and also, nobody ever doubted that Bobby Petrino is a heck of a recruiter. A lot of people doubted other things about him.
And for the most part, was a heck of a coach.
Yeah, offensive coach.
Well, I'm just, his record and bowl success and things like that was pretty darn good.
Yeah, but he was able to get the talent to do the things he wanted to do. Nobody doubted that.
Which is what you got to do in college.
Yeah, now Satterfield comes in there and he changes the culture, and the talent was already there. All he's got to do is just get them to play well, or at least play.
Play together.
Yeah, play together.
And they have. Great job.
And the upside for Kentucky fans is they took the week off.
They did.
Especially after their last couple of games. Oh, my God.
They've got a mess at quarterback.
Yeah, they do. And I don't know. We talked about this last week. I don't know how they fix that. It may be unfixable.
Well, it's not like you can go sign anybody in college. Right. It's too late.
Yeah.
So they're either going to go with the wide receiver or the third-string quarterback from Lexington who's had 2 surgeries on his arm.
Yeah.
I think that may be why he hadn't played or something. They're in a pickle right now.
Meanwhile, back to Purdue, something that people may not have realized is the kid Elijah Sindler, that was their quarterback, got hurt
from Kentucky.
Yeah, he was played at Caldwell County,
right.
And then Moore, I think, also got hurt.
Yes.
So 2 of their biggest players offensively are out of the. I think Sindler's done for the season. I don't know.
I agree. How many times I've said this up here though? If you don't like somebody, those are excuses.
Right.
If you're inside the program, there are reasons why you lose.
Yeah.
Just depends on how you want to put it. Is it a reason or is it an excuse? Right. If they're after you,
yeah, it's an excuse.
That's exactly right.
So you've been keeping up with these MLB playoffs here?
Yeah. My Cardinals, who I'm pulling for, they blew it last night. They gave up 3 runs in the 9th, and now they're down 3-2 as we're talking right now.
Yep. Well, it's been a Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. Thank you to Anthony Holt for joining us. Thank you to Warren Cunningham. Join us Friday night at Barren County High School.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.